Hello, welcome to the Holding Space Taster. I'm Claire Snowden-Darling.
I'm Laura Knowles.
And we've accidentally turned up for work in the same outfit. We're in different time zones and we did not even think that we'd end up in the same outfit.
I feel it's a beige roll neck.
We've been laughing about that all morning. Anyway, welcome, and we are very excited to talk you through holding space. I'm going to start off by saying we are the founders of the College of Functional Wellness, and Functional Wellness, the college, was originally designed to be a vehicle to teach people the wonderful world of kinesiology, which we're not going to talk about now. But through the teaching of the wonderful world of kinesiology, we realized that there are a lot of people who don't firstly want to learn kinesiology, they want to learn about broader wellness coaching. But one of the key things that Laura and I have been deeply passionate about now since I was first teaching 15 years ago, not for my college, for another college, but what we've been deeply passionate about is seeing the inability for practitioners to be able to hold space. And we're going to talk about what that actually means. But at a fundamental level, it was watching students see somebody cry, have a bit of a panic, not know what to do about it, and then just reach for a tissue. Now, holding space was really born out of this concept of how do we get people really confident with dealing with other people's emotions. And the truth is, when we get confident with dealing with our emotions. And so the training that we have created is incredibly unique. And we're going to tell you more about it, obviously, but it really is born out of our personal journeys over the past 20 years. Laura and I committed a vast amount of time, energy, money to going on a deep journey of self-work and pulling the best of every single modality that we experience, every experience that we experience, and pulling it together to create this phenomenal course that literally changes lives. I have witnessed this just change people's lives. It not only changes the lives of the people when they're doing the course, then this transformed version of ourselves goes on to touch however many people we go on to touch, dozens, hundreds, thousands of people. So it just completely changes your perspective. So the reason that we're passionate about this as a course is that we are in the middle of a global health crisis. I'm talking about the emotional health crisis. We have got, anxiety is one of the most medicated conditions on the planet. Depression, one of the most medicated conditions on the planet. We have got, teenagers self-harming. We've got, male suicide is now one of the leading causes of male death. We have got an emotional crisis, the likes of which we have never witnessed before. Now, it could just be because we're talking about it, which is a great start, but we need something to help with it. That's from our perspective as holistic practitioners. There are people in the corporate world, particularly HR people, who are now having to deal with, they're at the coalface, having to deal with people coming into work, trying to navigate these emotional issues. And the HR training does not give them the tools to be able to handle this. I would say that any practitioner of anything, if you're a PT, your clients are bursting into tears in front of you because they're hormonally unwell, they are dealing with all these pressures, they're not coping. Everybody I speak to who is a practitioner of something, or be it or in the corporate world, are saying that they are dealing with people who cannot cope. And so at its fundamental purpose, holding space is to give people the tools to be able to cope and to be able to help others out of. It's basically so that we create a firm foundation for ourselves, so we're not on that shifting sand, and then we can actually offer support to others. Anything else to say on that, Laura?
No, I think that was all good.
Oh, great. So what holding space actually means is it's the ability to be able to the ability to be with somebody regardless of where they are emotionally. So it's the ability to watch someone in a state of emotion and be able to observe it, not judge it, not try and necessarily like fix it in that moment, not caretake, not feel uncomfortable in ourselves, to literally be able to create space for that person to authentically process whatever it is they need to process. So creating the space and then holding the space. And you know, it's quite interesting when you start talking about holding space, because it really is, you know, so that's a verb, holding, and it is something that we have to learn to do, because people are going through something. And when we watch another human go through something, we start going through something unless we've learned how not to. And so it is this act of holding from this place of absolute no judgment, and from this complete place of consciousness, getting out the way of ourselves from our triggers and our wounds. And that is the purpose of holding space. Yeah. So why is this training different? Have I covered that? Anything else?
No, I think that's, you're going to talk about the difference between coaching and counselling. Is that your next?
Do that bit. Go on. I've just talked for ages.
Okay. So this is fundamentally a coaching course. And I like what Claire said, it is about being able to hold space. But the other big thing that is taught in this course is what to say and what to ask at the right times, so that you enable someone to be able to go through the process that they need to go through. So we often feel with emotional work that we need to get involved in someone's process. Well, often it is about walking alongside them, not doing the process for them, but being able to ask the questions and to be able to mirror and paraphrase, or to be able to witness and to see what someone is going through, and to be able to show that to someone from a really aligned place. Because like Claire said, if we haven't dealt with our own emotional stuff, then we can't see it in others. We just get into our own story. So a big part of this training is, how do we get past our story so that we are able to coach someone else? And what I think is incredibly important in this course is it is made up of fundamentally two parts. It is made up of the personal development work. And I'm never comfortable with personal development. It's the doing the work on yourself. It is working on your own history, working on your own issues, the reactions and responses that you have to situations or in relationships, the beliefs and behaviors that you have developed over years and years and years of being on this planet. And there is a big part of this course that is about exploring all of that. No stone shall remain unturned in this course. Because I know from my own experience, when I became a practitioner in health, that whatever I hadn't dealt with rocked up in my clinic and stared me in the face. And I could tell, because I'd feel emotional about something that someone was talking about. And so becoming a practitioner or someone who works in any kind of coaching role, it really does call us into really uncovering all of this that is within us. So this course does. It gives you the tools to be able to go in and have a look at your stuff and then work through it, so that it no longer triggers you, affects you, controls your decision-making processes, so that you are able to be that clear vessel when you are coaching.
And it's not even just when we're coaching, right? Like, that's just for the whole of our life. It's the most liberating. It is genuinely the most liberating thing I have ever done. Like, I used to be a very easily triggered person. I was very defensive. I had very low self-esteem. It was all everything was just, oh God, everything felt very personal and painful. Everything was painful. And now I can be in these situations where, you know, so many things can be said. And I'm just like, it's literally like being Neo in the Matrix, isn't it? It's like this sort of force shield over you where you're like, oh, this thing is coming at me. But you know what? I know exactly how to push that. It just doesn't affect us, and not from a numbing, armored, that's not going to affect me. It's like, oh, I can feel the pain in that. I can even express, that part of me really feels the pain in that, but it doesn't actually elicit a reaction. And then I'm going to come back and go, well, how dare you say that to me? And there's just none of that drama. It's just so zen. And then our fear becomes diminished. And then our anxiety becomes diminished, because it's like, it doesn't matter what life throws at me. I've got me. I've got this. It's okay. And then what happens is, when we come into connection with other people, so be that clients, be that friends, be anybody, what happens is people just get this sense of safety, because we feel solid. We're not going to get, we're not unpredictable. We're not going to get pushed. It's like we're like trees. We might move in the wind because we're human, we feel, but we're not. It's not all about to be catastrophic and a drama. So people feel this safety, and then it's like, yeah, I can open up to you. Yes, I can share with you. Yes, because I feel the solidity in you. So not only is it a pathway to real freedom from being triggered and drama and, volatility, it's also this journey to find the most authentic expression of ourselves. Like, who am I really away from all that triggers? Because those triggers are just wounds that haven't been healed. So who am I away from that? Who am I really? It's just the most beautiful journey.
And this is how I think this training is truly unique, because, like I said earlier, it has essentially two elements to it. It is the personal work of doing your own growth and discovering who you are. And then we've got the clinical techniques, practices that we use, that we have used for many, many years in our clinical practice, so that you are able to work on yourself. So this journey into holding space is roughly an 18 months to 2 year process. And we strongly recommend that when you start the course, that you work on the personal journey stuff first, because by working on yourself, you are becoming more confident and comfortable to be with other people's stuff in a coaching environment. So yes, this is a coaching course. This is not a counselling course. And we wanted to make it clear what the distinction is. Now, and coaching is about moving forward. And you will learn, as part of becoming a coach, how you're able to take someone from one place and guide them through a series of questions and different techniques into a new place. Counselling is more about looking back into the past, about the experiences that have shaped us and affected us, and where we are in the present moment. And coaching is very dynamic, so you tend to get homework, you tend to get self development work off the back of seeing a coach, whereas counselling is more, you go into that session once a week and you talk about what has happened in the past and what is going on for you, but you don't tend to come away with homework. So we wanted to make that distinction between what is counselling and what is coaching. And I have studied a counselling qualification, and my experience of being trained in counselling is that there's a lot of information about the history of where counselling has come from and the different models that are used. And we were given some effective techniques like questioning, but there was very, very little personal work that we had to do on ourselves. And so I think that this is one of the strongest benefits of doing a training course like this, is that you get this double whammy of being able to become a great emotional coach and dealing with your stuff.
Yeah. And actually, just you saying that, I want to speak to some of the, the sort of 5-hour online life coach courses where best will in the world, you are not clearing your baggage in 5 hours, and you might be learning some questions to ask people or a structure of how to ask the questions, but it does not mean that you are comfortable dealing with people's big emotions. Saying that, it's also very important to know where the edge of your remit is and when to refer on, and what the red flags are for referring on to mental health practitioners or, specific specific other practitioners, and that is something that we are keeping our practitioners and our clients safe is absolutely the forefront of our work always. And so our referring on process is very in-depth, and we really do teach people where the edges are for what they can and can't deal with. Because I've been in situations where someone, supposedly had a life coaching qualification, and then they've held a sharing circle that was just, people being triggered into re-traumatized patterns all over the place because they were just dealt with ineffectively. And that is something we have to be so mindful of.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get on to the demo, let's talk about what the qualification involves and what we can do. What can we do with it?
Yes. Okay, so the qualification is recognised as a certificate as certified by the Federation of Holistic Therapists, and it is 180 hours. And what it will give you is the ability to be able to run a coaching practice. So you will be able to get insurance to be a holding space coach. And we use the insurance company Balance. And so that means that you will be able to charge for your services as a coach. Now, this training can fit into a existing practice. Maybe you're already a practitioner of a different modality and you are wanting to offer more emotional coaching, then this can very much fit into this. It can be a standalone qualification. It can also be for something if you want to work in the corporate arena where you are dealing with people's emotional issues. So that can be within human resources as an example, where people are having to have those coaching conversations with members of staff. I think is there anything else that I need to add to that?
No, there is the potential to, so you can work privately,
or you can, this is a qualification that if you are looking at going into a job role where coaching or mentoring or even supervision, where you are managing staff and you are having to deal with people, I think that this course is suitable. You can also do this from a personal perspective. If it is something where you are struggling with relationships in your life or being able to move forward with any area, or actually even parenting, I think that this course is amazing to be able to become the parent that you want to be. If you're finding that you're shouting at your children quite a lot, for example, then this training offers you that opportunity to be more in alignment with yourself.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And there are so many places now looking for mentors, coaches, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we're always on the lookout because, it's a big part of our work is making sure that we can keep expanding, sharing circles and all those things. So it's needed now, basically. That's the point. We're needed.
One thing I would love to see is that this kind of qualification sat with, say, nutritionists, because I know nutritionists understand the biochemical incredibly well, but you are tending to deal with people who are coming in with functional disease, and it's incredibly emotional experience when someone is ill. So if a nutritionist is more skilled in being able to coach someone and support them with the emotions that come up with ill health, I think that would be amazing.
So I've got the Holding Space manual in front of me, and I'm just having a little look so that I can tell you what is in it. So what do we actually cover in Holding Space? Well, we look at how do we deal with our childhood issues. So we do look back, because that is usually where fears stem from, because they stem from our conditioning. So we're not going to sit there and talk about, for 20 hours, the stuff in your childhood. We give practical tools for dealing with fear and anxiety that looks at the wounding that we all experience every single day as like a small child. So this is the beginnings of what we call inner child parenting, where anything where we are experiencing fear or anxiety is usually coming from this wounded little one that is walking around in our bodies when we look like adults. So at any given moment, in any adult that we see walking around, there are, many aspects of us. There is this fearful child, there is a rebellious teenager, and then there is, at some point, this adult that can make decisions. My clinical experience, my personal experience, my teaching experience my parenting experience shows me that actually the bit that is generally missed from so many therapies is assisting us as these wounded and angry, children and teenagers into being the conscious, objective adult, the person that can hold, discipline, the person that has the rationale, the person who is actually self-loving. So we teach how to deal with fear. We teach how to deal with anxiety. We start looking at the messaging that we have got, beating ourselves up. How are we not in self-love? We look at, so we use a variety of different techniques. We're using NLP, we're using this inner child parenting, which is just the most phenomenal technique. We are using, what else? We use Bach flower remedies, we use meditations, affirmations, we use some really practical movement-based techniques basically for anybody coming in, for ourselves, for any situation, and then for anybody coming in. So by the end of the course, we have dealt with that very wounded inner child. We have learned how to have a healthy expression of anger, because most people are stuck in a caretaker, people pleaser, often the good girl syndrome. We have been taught it's not safe to show anger, or often in the way that boys are brought up is they're not taught how to express vulnerability. So we learn how to heal those distorted wounds. We then go on and we look at, how do I become confident? How do I stand in the world as this confident adult who can, hold that wounded child and express that in a very safe way, that rebellious, angry teenager? How do we have nonviolent communication? How do we communicate with people when we are in that state of anger, or there's something to bring? How do we have healthy boundaries? How do we state those boundaries? How do we even know what a boundary is and when we need one? What's the feelings in us? So we deal with all of that. We look at what the survival strategies are, how we're numbing ourselves. We basically look at all the aspects of the emotional experience and how to consciously express ourselves in this authentic, untriggered way. Anything else?
Love it.
Relationships, self-love, boundaries, inner child parenting, confidence, wounding, anger. It's kind of, the human experience, right?
This course.
Every day of the week.
Experience.
So that's actually what's in the course, and that's how we do it. So the course is structured over, there is in-person, there's online learning, there is in-person workshopping, there is, you do case studies, you have the manual, there's online resources, there's quizzes, and then the end of the course is you actually video yourself doing a session and you send it in and we give feedback. Anything else?
I think that's it. There's a community as well.
Oh yes, and a community.
Plenty of sharing circles to be able to, and the support from us as your tutors to be able to process what is coming up.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so anything else we want to say? My dog's just come back from a walk and he's drinking his water really noisily. Why does that always happen when you're, doing a live? Anything else we want to say?
No, that's it.
Okay, so what I am going to do now is I am going to demo for you a holding space coach, like an emotional coaching session. So we have got a wonderful volunteer who has sent me, he's still drinking. Sorry. Honestly, we turn up in the same outfit and then the dog's noisily drinking in the background. Can't get the professionalism these days. So I have already been sent through a consent form and a coaching questionnaire. And this is really important because this is the kind of safety that we work with, and this is the kind of professionalism that we are going to be teaching you of how to launch into somebody's issues. Like, we give you the whole framework. So
I am going to disappear and I'm going to let you get on with it.
You're going to come back after, are you?
I am, for the question.
Great.
Okay.
So I'm going to invite Pixie to come up and, great, hello, unmute and take a camera off. And what I'm basically going to do is, I had a little look through Pixie's coaching questionnaire, so I know what techniques we're going to be working on, but what I'm going to be demoing is how I'm coaching. So you're going to see me coaching Pixie, and then you're actually going to see me use some of the techniques, just a couple of the techniques that we would use, or you would be able to use after doing holding space. So, hello, Pixie.
Hi, how are you?
I am very, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. So thank you very much for volunteering. I have your questionnaire in front of me, and I'm not going to go through it for everyone because obviously this is confidential, and thank you for agreeing to do this publicly, but I kind of just want to pick up on a couple of things, and then we're going to sort of dive into those. Okay. And I'm making this more sort of, I suppose, public safe. So I'm not going to dive into any of the really big stuff. Okay, so in your questionnaire, we ask what the biggest changes you want to make in your life over the next 5 years. And you comfortable with me giving some of the answers?
Yeah,
okay, so one of the answers that you gave was to create a thriving clinic. Can you tell me what this means?
Being able to offer a variety of sessions, from kinesiology to coaching to nutrition, all of that to the various public, but also to be able to have referrals from GPs.
Okay, and can you just distill down for me a little bit more? What does thriving actually mean? Like, what is the metric of success that you're using?
Having enough clients to have the space that I want, not necessarily the space that is on offer. Yeah, that's probably the gist of it, really.
So it would be more that there would be the financial,
everything
income.
boils down to money.
Okay,
yeah.
So the financial income, but actually the driver behind that is because you want a space that you want to be able to have the space to practice in. That's what you mean by that, right? Like,
yeah,
the clinic room or the therapy
want my own space, not a rented room, not somebody else's space, my own space that I can do with as I choose.
Yeah, okay, lovely. That sounds really lovely. So the metric of success will be when there is enough money for you to be able to choose the space that you want to choose.
Yeah.
And you don't have to share those with us, but do you have an idea of what that looks like in terms of the financials? Yeah,
I have a rough estimate from what I've spoken to people about.
Okay, so you've already sort of like, you're really clear on the actual goals for that, yeah?
Yeah.
Great. Because that's also something that, with part of this training, we do foundation coaching skills, and that is something that you can, we can do. I'm sort of saying this to everyone. That is something that we could also, you could also be coached on, is my point. So then you said, if anything was possible, what would you wish for? And you said the motivation to do it all. So what I'm doing here, just to let you know, is I'm kind of going through your form, and I've sort of circled things from what you've said that I want to pick up on, because I'm looking for which bit we're going to dive into. So when you said the motivation to do it all, what do you mean?
I've recently had a diagnosis for ADHD. So above the autism, I now have ADHD as well. And I've come to realize that I have something called ADHD paralysis, where the most basic of tasks, for instance, washing the dishes, becomes so massive that my body just goes, I'm not doing it, not having it, not interested. And because of that, I just shut down and end up by disassociating.
Okay. I'm really curious about that, because I absolutely hear that it's, you know, and this is interesting because I hear that it's a, you know, a diagnosed like medical thing, which can also make it an absolute, right? Well, I've got this thing. So, I'm not saying this is you, but it can be very common for people to go, oh, well, I can't do that because I've got this thing. And actually, I really, truly believe that, yes, okay, you have this thing that's going to make it, you know, tougher in that area, but we can absolutely apply tools there. Yeah,
I agree completely. Just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean that is be all and end all. There's ways around it, and we can do stuff.
Yeah, when we have, I always talk about the desire and the discipline. So when we desire it enough and we learn the tools to apply, we can make anything happen.
Yeah.
And as you know, the diagnoses that you have, you know, they just make your brain work in an even more special way. That means that you see the world differently to other people, and there's your gift. Yeah. There's your gift. Sure, it might be challenging trying to, you know, fit into the mainstream part of the world, but your absolute gift will be how you see the world in your own beautiful, unique way. And it's just about finding tools to help you to flourish with those, right?
Yeah.
I know you always know that. So the other thing I want to talk about, because I'm just getting a little picture here, is the greatest challenge you've had to overcome is about being a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So tell me what the face was about.
So I it's a bit of a long-winded story. The short version is I have childhood trauma issues surrounding my mum, and if I didn't do as she wanted, I got reprimanded quite badly. And because of that, whenever anybody goes, will you do it? I'll go, oh yes, for sure, because I don't want that reprimanding to happen, and that horrible little girl, not horrible, that little girl, that emotion to go, you're worthless, you're not worthy, nobody loves you, and all of that. So yeah, I'm working on it, but I'm a massive people pleaser, and I still am. I'm getting better with family and friends, but the wider public, I still struggle a little bit because of that need to be liked and appreciated. And yeah.
So so basically that's a trauma response, isn't it? It's the people pleasing is a trauma response. The caretaking is a trauma response.
Yeah.
And so if we can do some of the healing at the place of the, you know, the trauma, then you won't have to do the people pleasing so much.
Yeah.
And this is it's so common that it's this stuff from childhood which is where counselling so, you know, popular, I suppose, but it's this stuff from our childhood that creates the wounds, but it's actually playing out in our today world. So how can we fix that without spending 20 years talking about your childhood and your relationship with your mother? Because although that's important, it's not going to move us forward now.
No.
And it's more practical to have something that's going to move us forward now. Okay, so I'm just getting this little picture, and then we're going to sort of piece together what we're going to do. And then you've said on a scale of 1 to 10 how stressed you feel right now. So what are your key stressors? You said feeling like you've got to be strong for your family. Can you give me a little bit more around that, please?
This is a bit of a touchy thing because it's emotion and
Sure. So if you just keep yourself as safe as you need to be, and, you know, make it just to the little bullet points.
So my stepfather-in-law passed away on my husband's birthday year before last, and as you can tell, not over it. Husband has been very tense since then, so we've sort of taken my mother-in-law under our wing as well, and she's now 100% full involved in the family, and the kids haven't dealt with it. It doesn't matter what I've put into place. I think it's because I'm sort of really close to them as well, that they're not actually trying to deal with the grief in a productive way. They are just shutting down and not dealing with it, and that's sort of making it a bit harder for the family as a whole. So trying to be supportive and be that rock for them, as well as my mother-in-law, as well as my husband. Yeah, it's a bit stressful.
And what's the worst that would happen if you weren't being the rock?
I'm not too worried about my mother-in-law because she's got other people to go to. I'm concerned my husband will probably break completely and just go off the rails and do something silly. My kids, the child and adolescent mental health team, as most people might know, is ridiculous. So they, unfortunately, my eldest has started self-harming, restricting eating, and it boils down to not dealing with the grief. And I'm aware that them going off the rails in that sense could really go down a horrible route, and I don't want that to happen. And I'm trying to sort of not let that happen as well. So that would be it, really. Them really not dealing with life at all.
And as you're saying all of that, I just feel like this ball of pressure.
Yeah.
And stress.
Yeah.
And like you are just trying to hold everybody up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so who's holding you up?
My journaling. My journaling. I journal every single night. I meditate every night as well. I do some affirmations when I'm led in a bath, soaking in a lavender magnesium filled room. And I spend a lot of time in nature. When I'm not inside, I'm outside.
Great. So self-care is like a priority right now.
Big priority.
Fantastic. You're using tools and you're in self-care because that's the only way you are going to keep yourself propped up to prop everyone else up.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well done. So I'm going to go back because that sounds like it's a really big, chunky issue, and I would love to dive into it with you, but not on a live.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to, because I actually think it's part and parcel anyway, I want to go back to this, the people pleasing and the boundaries. Because the problem is we can't switch that off. So that will also be leaking into that particular issue. Mm-hmm. So, there is a truth, and as painful as it sounds, there is a truth that the only people we are responsible for are ourselves and our children under the age of 18. Yeah. That's the only people we are actually responsible for.
Yeah.
So I also have a belief, which is that what we try and do so much is we cling and cling and cling and try and control, but we don't allow a situation to be what it is. Now, obviously, your children self-harming or your child self-harming, I mean, that is something as a parent, you are going to, be absolutely, we are throwing whatever we can at this. It's not just about going, oh, well, I'll just let it be what it is because I don't have to do anything. Like, it's not about apathy, but there could be, you said about your husband breaking and doing something silly, and there is a, obviously you want to support him and but you can't fix it. You can't fix it. We can't fix anything. It's such an illusion. You can support him with the decisions that he makes. The only person that you are responsible for right now is you. And it actually sounds like, as stressed as you are, you're doing a good job of self-care and using your tools and your children. So let's go back to the boundaries, because I think the people pleaser is popping in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I'm not saying you let your husband just, but priorities, your children.
Yeah.
You and your children. But the people pleaser will be going, but I don't want anything to happen to him. I don't want anything to happen to him, and be in this fear panic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to these boundaries. So just touching on what you were saying around your mum when you were younger and the trauma. So we don't have to go into that anymore. But what I would just really like you to drop into is that feeling of, if you didn't say yes, and if you didn't walk on eggshells, and if you didn't try and make it okay, what's the feeling? What's going to happen? What are you telling yourself will happen?
Rejection. I think that's the big one. Rejection. Not good enough. Yeah, not worthy. Yeah.
Okay. So I really hear that. We're going to do some work on those, but I want to tell you some stuff about those because I think it might help. Firstly, the more we do the work on our self-love, which you're already doing, but we're going to, learn how to do more of it. The more we do the work on our self-love, we realize it's impossible for us to be rejected because it's us. Actually, we spend our lives looking outside of ourselves for that love, but that's unsustainable, isn't it? It's like if that person leaves me, or they die, or something happens, or we break up, that love's gone and I'm alone and I'm rejected again. But if we have found this place inside of ourselves where we are there showing up, I am here, I'm in absolute self-love. Like, I know that I'm good enough. I know that I'm worthy. I know that I love me. I know I'm not going anywhere. That's actually the love we're seeking.
Yeah.
And so we look outside of ourselves all the time until we actually go, it's me I'm looking for. I remember a beautiful quote Marianne Williamson wrote in a book about how she always was waiting for someone to discover her. And then one day she realized it was actually she was waiting for herself to discover her. It's like, it doesn't matter how big she got, like all these people discovering her work. She's like, none of that felt like it was me I was waiting for. And that's what we were waiting for, is for you to go, I'm really worthy. I am. And I know, I've known you a long time. I know how far you've come on that journey. But what's great, and this is the great thing with any trigger or any issue, is it's like a little window into there's still some more work to do. And we're never done. We're not done until we're at the jumping off point. Like, we're never done. So again, when we start celebrating triggers and wounds and emotions, then we go, okay, great, there's some more work to do. So let's have this little look at the rejection and I'm not good enough. Now, what I also want to speak to about this is that there are 5 core wounds of humanity, and not being good enough, I'll be alone, and I'm unlovable. That's like, 3 of them. So what's great about that is, and this doesn't diminish your experience, but this is, everyone feels the same.
Yeah.
So if suddenly everyone feels the same, okay, great. Now I know that this doesn't alienate me from people. This is actually what binds me. I'm not a weirdo because I feel this. And that's, these stories when we're being rejected, oh, actually, this is completely what connects me to other people. There is no rejection here. I feel the same. I feel the same. And so by having the vulnerability and being able to go, okay, great. This is one of my core wounds. How fantastic. Now I can deal with it. And when we really deal with it, it actually becomes our superpower, because you will realize, we've already talked about, you clearly have a brain that works in a very beautifully unique way. That is your superpower. But it's when we take it from, oh, I have these diagnoses, and you don't do that at all, but from these diagnoses to, okay, I am going to use these because my brain works in an unusual way. What's my niche? How do I make that work for me? It's exactly the same with these core wounds. So this deep fear of rejection will be one of the things that makes you have the ability to be so inclusive. Your deep belief of not being good enough is what will absolutely drive you to empower other people. And your deep belief of being unworthy is also how you will help others see their uniqueness and beauty. So it will turn around. And that's the point of doing the work.
Yeah.
And this is how we make it our superpower, and not from a place of people pleasing and just wanting them to like you. Because actually, when you've got your boundaries in place, you won't care if they like you or not, because you love you so much. So what I want to look at is, I've got a couple of little techniques I want to do with you, and they're going to be some homework. I'm just pointing out that we're doing this in like a half hour, and usually we'll be exploring it in an hour. So I'm giving quite a lot of the references, but we would be doing a lot more sort of discussion, you and I.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to ask you is, okay, we're going to do a technique called Lucia. Now, have you got flower remedies at home?
I do, yes.
Hooray! So we're going to do a technique called Lucia, and I can then tell you what your flower remedies are. If you were my client and I was coaching you, I could make the remedy bottle and send it to you, which is always exciting. So I want you to just close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think about that little girl who was told that she wasn't good enough, she wasn't worthy, and who feared being rejected. Now, I'm going to hold up some cards on the screen, and what I'd like you to do is look at them and tell me which colour leaps out at you when you think about that little girl.
Oh, green, straight away.
Lovely. And that one.
Red.
Great. So we're just going to go through them all until we've got none left. Now what?
Blue. Grey. Purple. Black. Brown, and then yellow. Yeah.
Great. So we are now going to pair these up. I'm going to write them down, and then I will message you afterwards. And like I said, if you didn't have the flower remedies, I would be making you a bottle and sending them to you. So this is how in Holding Space we combine different modalities. So we're going to start with green, red, and I have this sheet which tells me what they all correlate to. So green, they pair up. So green and red is vervain, which is stress, strain, and trying too hard. I mean, you could have made that up, right? Then we've got blue grey, which is impatience, which is about being impatient and extreme mental tension.
Yeah, I'm very impatient. Very, very, very impatient.
Didn't you choose well? Then we've got violet black, which is heather, which is about, like, what about me? It's actually about wanting straight dealing and some independence, but you haven't got that because you didn't have that with your mum. There was no straight dealing there. It doesn't sound like there was a lot of, well, you were in fear. You were walking on eggshells. You didn't know where you stood.
Yeah.
And then we've got brown, yellow, which is water violet, disappointment leading to an air of indifference. So that will be where you laugh it off.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lovely.
that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the passing it off. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's just fine. Yeah. I love fire.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
So these are, I mean, we go into more detail on the course, but these are from the colour psychologist, Max Lucia, and they correlate with flower remedies for anyone who's watching doesn't know what I just did. So that would be a really lovely supportive tool, and I will send it to you. But what I want to do is we're going to do some inner child parenting, and I want you to just imagine that little girl in front of you. Okay. And how old is she?
6.
Okay. And that 6-year-old little girl, whenever you are not putting boundaries in place, whenever you are people pleasing, and whenever you are caretaking, you are basically taking that little girl and you are not listening to her, because she's trying to talk to you. She's trying to get you to listen to her. She's asking you to be the parent that she never had. So basically, in effect, whenever you're people pleasing, you are like basically telling her to shut up and go get in a cupboard. Yeah, you're Harry Pottering her. shoving her in a cupboard. So if that little girl could tell you anything about your people pleasing, about about anything. I'm just thinking about the motivations, about the ADHD paralysis. If she could tell you anything, what would she tell you?
If you are what I become, then I want to live this life. If you are who I am when I'm older, then I want to do it. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
And what does she need from you to make living this life and becoming you safe? Because at the moment, it's not, if you're people pleasing.
Just to hold her hand and walk with her. Just be there. Give her a hug when she needs one. Support. Help fight her battles, but not fight them for her. Yeah.
Sounds like how you're being with your daughter.
Yeah. Actually, it's exactly how I'm being with both of them. That's cool.
It's great. And how does it feel to be able to do that for you?
Really weird because it's never been done, but I feel really empowered, really confident, really motivated. Bit of a weird one, but yeah, I'm yeah, good, really good.
So that, the water violet, the area of indifference, that's when you're not listening to her. That's not listening. You're not listening to her. The people pleasing, the feeling demotivated, the putting other people first, the trying to rescue your husband, actually. That's you not listening to her. She will be telling you what she needs. Now that could just be, I just need everyone to go away for 10 minutes and I need to hide under a duvet. It could be, I need some time in nature. It could be, I need you to say no. I need you to actually allow this to be what it is. I need you. But the journey is to listen to her. So how would it be if you were to just close your eyes and see her in front of you again? And how would it be to thank her for talking to you and tell her you're going to come back and listen to her? But with your meditations in the evenings or in the mornings, whenever it is, make the commitment that you go and have a conversation with her about the day ahead or the day that you've had, and ask her what you needed to do differently to keep her safe.
Be listened, just be aware, and don't people please. Don't say yes. Don't say yes. Try and say no more often.
And how would it feel that every time you say yes when you mean no, you are literally shutting in her cupboard? How does she feel about that?
Angry.
Right.
Really angry.
And who's more important? Her, this little girl who was so wounded by your mum and has continued to be wounded because you've shut her in cupboards. This little girl who's so desperately wanting the best for both of you, or the person that you are struggling to say no to? Who's more important?
Oh, definitely me, my little girl. Definitely.
Great. So there's the commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. So goals from this coaching session: daily listening to your little girl and having that conversation with her around what did I need to do differently today? And then if I struggle to say no, okay, you can bring this back to coaching. Why did I struggle to say no? What tools do I need? Like when I was going through this process, I needed a script. I literally had scripts for different things on my phone just so I could I just got to work it through because I didn't have the blueprint. So what do we need to do to be able to put that into action? But the most important thing is that connection with that little girl, and you tell her on a daily basis, you are worthy, you are lovable, I am here. I am going nowhere. You are not rejected. They were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that feel?
Relieved. Yeah, I don't feel so heavy. I don't feel heavy. Yeah, it's a good one.
Great.
Feel a lot better.
So that would be a lovely thing for us to follow up on. But really great for this short session. I really appreciate you, Pixie. Thank you so much. I'll email you your flower remedies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Laura, are you coming back on? Anything you'd like to say from that?
Oh, wasn't it wonderful? We learn a lot of techniques in holding space and through our therapies, and inner child work, I just go to it again and again and again. I just think it is one of the most powerful things that we have on offer. And what I think is important is, if we are to offer it as a technique in coaching, then the only way that we can be really, really good at it is if we really apply it to ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
It's been a daily practice of mine for 10 years, maybe longer now.
More than 12 years. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And so obviously that's only a snippet, but hopefully that's given you an idea of the holding space framework, of how we don't get, scared or concerned when someone has an emotional response, about how we guide a session, about how even the information that I was giving her about this is all stuff, everything I said to Pixie is stuff that you learn. And so that is information. That is absolutely how I run my sessions, is giving people, this is exactly how we run our physical illness, wellness sessions, like when people have got illnesses, is giving them information about what is going on. So it's not, I'm going crazy, and it's all, it's impossible. It's like, no, this is what's going on. And this is the tool. This is how we can deal with it. This is one of the tools. There were many tools that we could have used there. I think that's it. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we're going to stop the recording and just check in if there's any other questions. If you are watching this as a recording, there will be a link for more information on the Holding Space course. Please get in touch with us if you have any questions, and we really look forward to seeing you on the training.